friends! Welcome to week 10 of our series in Philippians called Resilient Joy. Now, we probably are getting the hang of this by now, right? Because we know that the book of Philippians is a letter. And so in order to help us understand the whole letter every week, as we add additional verses and chapters, we want to go back and remember what this letter is all about. So, week number 1, we talked about, well, who is this letter written for? And who wrote the letter? And so we know that Paul wrote this letter and he wrote it from jail. And he's writing this letter to the church of Philippi, who are called the Philippians. You see, the church of Philippi had been off to a really good start. And then slowly things started not going quite as planned. And so Paul is writing this letter to encourage them to keep going. We get to week 2 then, where Paul just writes an entire paragraph overflowing with gratitude and thankfulness for the church of Philippi, for their friendship, their partnership, their prayers. And Paul's just overflowing with gratitude. And so we looked at, what does it look like for us to be kids who overflow with gratitude or thankfulness? We jumped into week 3 as Paul reminded us that the gospel is unstoppable. And we know that the gospel is the good news of Jesus. And so we know that Jesus is unstoppable. Therefore, Paul was reminding us in week 4 to live a life worthy of the gospel. He was reminding us that because we know Jesus, we get the opportunity to live differently. We get to live differently because we know Jesus. Week 5, Paul reminded us of some ways that we can live differently. And we talked about being humble or having humility, which is thinking of others before we think of ourselves, being others-minded, others-focused first. And as we continued into week 6, we talked about letting our light shine. We talked about how we can be examples and how when we know Jesus, we get to share that with others. That led us then into Paul talking about some of his friends. And so we looked at, what does it look like to be a good friend? A friend who is there in the good times and the not so good times. The next week, we learned about, what does it look like to witness? Paul was talking about just this importance of, since we know that the gospel is unstoppable and we know that we get to live differently, what does it look like to then share that with others? And then last week, we talked about kind of more of Paul's entire story, because Paul was reminding us that we're not striving to be perfect. We don't have to be perfect to tell other people about Jesus, to live differently, to live according to the gospel. We get to just be in progress, or taking steps to continually learn and get better and grow deeper, right? And so that brings us to this week. Hopefully in your family time lessons, you have already read our verses for this week. We are in Philippians chapter 4, verses 1 through 3. It's just 3 short verses. But Pastor Nick really helps us see how important it is to deal with conflict. And we know, friends, that conflict can be a little hard. And hopefully as a family, you guys have talked a little bit about what conflict is and what your natural tendency is on how you deal with conflict. So I thought for this week, as we think about conflict, I would bring along a book. And this book is called A Little Spot of Anger. And we know that conflict doesn't always equal anger. Sometimes in conflict, depending on our personalities, we can get really shy. Or we can shut down, where we just don't really listen to anything. So it's not always anger, but I really like this book because I think it gives us some coping skills of how do we deal with conflict ourselves, and that allows us then to deal with conflict well with others. So let's read it together. It's called A Little Spot of Anger, a story about managing big emotions, written and illustrated by Diane Alber. All right. Hi, I'm a peaceful spot. I'm here to help you calm down an angry spot when one shows up. Well, what's an angry spot? Okay, so do we see this is a peaceful spot? And can you see it's green? And when they use the word angry spot, it's red. So those colors will help us as we keep going. An angry spot is also known as anger. Anger is one of the many emotions we can experience every day. Other emotions are sadness and anxiety too. We have all these emotions inside us, but we feel the best when we are in our peaceful spot. So see down here, we have sadness, anger, and anxiety. It's good to have small spots of emotion, but when they get too big, you don't feel very good. So I'm here to show you how to calm your big angry spots down to a very peaceful little size, like me. So see, he's saying when we get really angry, it grows bigger and we don't feel as great, right? So how do we calm down? Your angry spot can show up when you are feeling frustrated, afraid, or hurt. When you are calm, it is easier to manage this strong emotion. And I know of a special trick to get your angry spot to calm down. Want to see? Yes, please. Let me see your hand. Okay, do it with me, friends. Now, imagine 4 red spots are on your fingers and 1 green spot is on your thumb, just like this. So see, our thumb is the green and then our fingers are the red spots. Now repeat after me. Count the spots from 1 to 4. Tap, 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 and tap once more. Okay? Now, fill your lungs with peaceful air and coat your spots with love and care. Now that you know what to do, let's take a look at some situations when your angry spot shows up. Okay, remember, so when our angry spot shows up, they're saying we get our finger, our hand ready, and we do tap, 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 and tap, right? And it's helping us to remember to put our green calm over all of our angry red dots, right? Well, this looks familiar. Remember when you tried to do something new and it didn't turn out the way you wanted it to? This can be very frustrating. Look how big that angry spot becomes. And this little girl, her angry spot is really big because she's frustrated. She can't draw. Have you guys ever been frustrated when you've tried something new and it didn't work? So when you're feeling like yelling, you should do this trick instead. Exactly. Once you begin counting, you are telling your angry spot that it is time to calm down and get smaller. So count the spots from 1 to 4. Tap, 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 tap. Once more. And see? Her angry spot got smaller. Now fill your lungs with peaceful air and coat your spots with love and care. Look how the peaceful air really cools down the angry spot. And see, look, the little girl says, I feel so much better. Everyone has their own style of art, and I shouldn't compare myself to others. I'm still learning, and it doesn't need to be perfect. I'm so glad I'm peaceful again. Oh dear, here's another situation where an angry spot got too big. I know when someone takes your toy, it can make you feel afraid that you may never see it again. So see how his angry spot is really big because he says, that's my toy. And he says, give it back. Instead of stomping your feet or growling, try and calm your angry spot down. Once you are calm, you will see that she isn't trying to be mean, she's just trying to play. So count the spots from 1 to 4. Tap, 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 and tap once more. It's working. The angry spot is already half his size. Now fill your lungs with peaceful air. Take a deep breath and coat your spots with love and care. When you are calm, it is easier to handle any situation. So see, the little boy says, well, why did you take my dinosaur? And she says, I thought we were playing Chase the Dinosaur. Let's look at some other situations when an angry spot shows up. Like when you feel hurt because you think you have lost your favorite toy. So this little boy's saying, "Where's my dinosaur?" "It's in the toy bin. Your angry spot made it harder to find." Or when you try to make a masterpiece but something spills, "My painting is ruined." Sometimes your angry spot makes it hard to see the wonderful thing you created. Once your angry spot is calm, you will see that you actually made an amazing splatter art. When you are calm, it's easier to look at any situation in a positive way. Remember, you have the power to calm your angry spot down and make it into a peaceful spot. Can you imagine your own spots or cut them out on construction paper and tape them to your fingers? And then you can practice it at home. So you do tap, 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 and tap once more. Let's do it together. Ready? So count the spots from 1 to 4. Tap, 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 and tap once more. Now fill your lungs with peaceful air. Take a deep breath. And coat your spots with love and care. The end. What did you guys think? Did you like that story? I think that gives us really helpful practical advice that when we're in conflict, we have 2 choices. We can either let our conflict or our anger get bigger and bigger and bigger, or we can do everything that we can to take a deep breath and to count and to tap and to calm down. So friends, may I encourage you this week as you face different conflicts to try to remember to slow down and to bring calm. To tap, 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 and tap once more. Take deep breaths, coat it with love, right? So friends, as you head into this week, know that I'm praying for you and I'm missing you, and I can't wait until I get to see you next Sunday as we continue through our series in Philippians. I'll see you then. Bye.